Okay, who's gonna take notes tonight? Collaboratively?
Yeah, we can do that. Otherwise, I'll do it. And I'll leave these. Okay, I call this special meeting of the Board of Education to order Monday, June 6, 2016. Can we have a roll call? Mr. Paredes? Here.
It's like so.
Huckabee, here.
Horace.
Marks.
John? John?
John Simmons here. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Can we turn that up a lot?
yeah, that's better.
Okay. First up on the agenda is discussion of superintendent evaluation tool. We have at this time in our schedule for our evaluation calendar taken this time to evaluate our evaluation tool. Most of the discussion around this seems to center around should we go with an overall percentage point or an average score for each individual board member or for all 7 altogether. And the counter argument to that is that we are a board, we have one voice, and ultimately we should come to arrive at a single rating. Okay, that the ratings are evaluative ratings; they're not numerical numbers. But anyone else have any comments or want to voice any concerns?
Could you tell me, you said the counter to that? What's the counter?
The counter to that is
the
that.
counter to, and what is the counter?
Okay, the counter to that is that.
To that, I'm sorry, to that what?
To that argument.
Which argument? Between a mode and a mean?
Between going with an average of all of our ratings, such that if there's 7 people, 4 say this is a 4, 3 say this is a 3, that we look for an average in there as opposed to look for what is a board mode, or what is a mode. Does that make sense?
That is a mode.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
I'm sorry, what's the?
The counter argument to that is, well, it should be, we should figure out, well, what is 4 times 4 and 3 times 3 added up and divided by 7, and that's what should be the rating. That's what I understand the argument, or the disagreement.
I'm sorry, I'm still unclear.
Okay.
So you're saying we currently use mode, and the argument is to not use mode, but use an average.
Yes. That is just something that has been put out there that's been up for discussion. I am only facilitating the
I support
discussion.
using the mean. It gives every member an equal voice. The mode does not. We only have 7 people.
I agree. I think every board member's score should count, so we should not have to go through what we went through the last time. And, I mean, my score is my score.
Okay,
Yeah, I agree.
that's fine. John, do you have your agree as well?
I think, as I stated in prior meetings, we should be using the median, not the mode nor the mean.
Sorry, I apologize, John. Medium, I think, is what I meant to say, and Michelle's nodding her head. We used the wrong M word.
Okay. Well, that's just my opinion. You guys might have a difference of opinion. I just wanted to make sure that I reiterated the appropriate mathematical term that I suggested a few meetings ago.
Okay, we better explain a median then.
Average.
No, a median.
Median is the
Mean.
number.
Sorry, I meant to say mean.
Mean,
Back up.
yeah,
Average,
mean.
mean.
Mean
Same
is
thing.
average.
Take
The
7
median
votes,
is-
divide them by
It's the number
7.
smack in the middle.
To be clear, 7 votes
Right.
divided by 7. Every individual score counts equally. I apologize for confusing.
No, I think we're still confused. I'm not suggesting a mean which is a synonym for average, I'm suggesting a median, M-E-D-I-A-N.
Okay.
A median,
That's the
a
midpoint.
median discounts wild scores on either end of the distribution.
Is,
Where a mean will sometimes be unduly influenced by tail events.
got it, understand, is 7,
With seven votes, there will be typically very, very little difference between the mean and the median. In the interest of full disclosure, but if we're attempting to choose the most appropriate metric, in my opinion, regardless of the number of scores we're getting, the median is the more appropriate measure to use in this case. That's my opinion.
Okay, so, John, then with that in mind, if there was, say, one person that said, well, I think this person's a 4 in this category or this area, and this other person says, I think it's a 1, how does that work?
well, there are 7.
Does that mean that 2.5 is the median? If it's a score of 4, there's no score that's smack in the middle. So, and I understand the logic of what you said, and I think that makes a lot of sense. One of the reasons why I don't support just taking an average is that, if you have one, out there score, I think it throws off what really is, the mode or the voice of the board, because you have one outlier, either way up high or way down low. Do you follow what I'm saying? So I like what you said about not necessarily discounting wild scores, but mediating wild scores so that we can have a score that is reflective of really the viewpoint of the board.
You gonna say something?
No, I'm sitting here thinking about mine.
One of the other things that I like about the mode, and you'd previously said, you brought up a scenario where really the mode is the most common score, but really we should be looking at a board mode, or which I guess is a term that we've coined along the way, that it should be 4 people on the board come to a score or an evaluation, so that it really represents the voice of the board. One of the benefits to that, I think, is the discussion it generates when there's a difference. And I think that it's very great, it's convenient if everyone says, yeah, we've really nailed this, or yeah, we have concerns here. But I think that as a reflective tool or a sharpening tool for our effectiveness as a governing board, that those discussions, I think, help clarify issues for wild scores, so that we get to have that discussion, so that this is an ongoing process, not a one and done, and that we can find out where people are coming from. If people have a specific opinion, it gives an option for people to actually say, well, I felt that this was a 2, or I felt this was a 3, or I felt this is a 4, and they can give some meat to what they put forward, as opposed to just saying, no, it's a this, and my score will be factored in, and we're never going to talk about it.
But to be clear, the score has nothing to do with conversation.
Well-
Conversation can occur even if everyone has the same score.
Sure.
These are 2 different topics, they don't go together.
Well-
Deciding on how we want to score this happens irrespective of discussion on the topic.
Well, I think they're related. They
How?
may not be entirely causal.
How?
If everybody agrees, like for example in last evaluation cycle, if everybody agreed that, let's say this score was this, or whatever the score was, then we all agree, well, that's the score, and we kind of minimize conversation.
But we don't know. You have the same score, you're choosing to minimize conversation. The board could decide we want to talk about every piece of the evaluation process. That would be my preference. But there are 2 separate things, a numerical score and discussion about the score are two separate items.
Okay, that's fine, and that's certainly another thing we could discuss. John, you're gonna say something?
Yeah, I would kind of echo, I think what I heard Ms. Marks say is my suggestion to change the scoring methodology was in no way meant to curtail any of the discussion, because I do agree that that is the most beneficial part of not only the board's discussion, but it should be, I think it was intended to be a very beneficial part of the dialogue that the entire board is supposed to be having with the superintendent on a regular, ongoing basis. What the scoring methodology does, in my opinion, is it helps set the framework for the discussion first and foremost, but ultimately and importantly, I think it does help us draw the discussion and dialogue to a natural close and endpoint. People are free to change their scores should they wish based on the dialogue, but they're not necessarily forced to do that, which I felt was happening a little bit during the prior methodology as we attempted to get one score tallied most often, which is what the mode is all about. And folks were having to kind of relent and either move their score up or down just to move the dialogue to a natural conclusion and move on. I mean, we can talk about these things ad nauseum if we so choose, but at some point it makes sense to say, okay, everybody's kind of been heard. Does anybody want to change their score? No or yes. And regardless of whether anybody changes, we do have ultimately then a score. It may not be an integer, and we'll have to get comfortable with that 2.5 is as acceptable as 2 or 3, that we move forward then with the score, having had that nice beneficial conversation around it.
Okay, I think that makes a lot of sense. Michelle or Merrill, do you have a comment on that?
Well, I'd certainly think that either the mean or the median is a better method to use than the mode. I just don't feel like every board member's score has value when you use the mode.
Okay.
And I'll echo a little bit what John was just saying about, yes, I think we had some great conversations, but, to eliminate this pressure of feeling like you need to
be one or the other. I think using a different methodology will eliminate that. I don't think that will eliminate conversation, because you can still have people that are on one end of the spectrum and the other, and there should be conversation. Actually, there should never not be a conversation about every single category on evaluation anyway. But I think either the mean or the median values each board member's scoring a lot better than using the mode. Okay.
My experience with using the mode was that we didn't listen to anyone else's input except the people that might have been causing us to not get a number, which is problematic because we had 7 people there and we didn't hear all 7 people's thoughts on anything. We just kind of went after the, could you go from a 3 to a 4 or a 2 to a 3? And I thought that unfairly targeted people who had a kind of a hot button score. And it didn't allow anyone else to all hear how people arrived at their numbers. So to your point, I think it was even murkier than it appears.
Okay, so Christine, just because I'm taking notes on this, so you felt that it fairly targeted people who were close, or?
There was no discussion amongst all 7 members. Only certain people who gave specific scores that were into bandwidth that happened to fit that into the question at hand and they were asked to move their score, not to do much else, and that seems wrong-headed in its approach.
And I have an issue with that, because I think that people arriving at their score for whatever reason that they've arrived at, it is their score. And that is the biggest problem that I had in sitting in this past evaluation is I just think that whatever independently you come up with, that should be the score, and it should not be in any way influenced to be tampered with, or to someone to say, well, we're at this point, can we move it here? Because to me, that means that you're influencing the other person based on the fact that we need a certain amount to move forward or a certain score to move forward. So I just want us to come to some level of agreement, what we're gonna do where that it doesn't cause us to have those kinds of discussions. Because they're very uncomfortable discussions in one sense, and in another sense, they prolong things.
I didn't feel that they were productive. I think it's a productive conversation if
Yeah.
I say, gosh, I see a lot of numbers in the 3 to 5 category or whatever the numbers, but you've got a 1 here. Talk to me about that. Was there something that we didn't hear or something that you didn't hear or didn't see? I think that would have been a richer and more beneficial conversation than,
And I agree.
you know, your 1 doesn't really matter, but
Mhm.
but this 3 and this 4, we gotta find somebody who's gonna bump. We played Let's Make a Deal, and
Yeah.
it's just, that doesn't.
Well, and I think everybody's score matters, and I think what they
It
come up
does.
with, it matters, but in the end, we do need to have a productive conversation and be able to move forward comfortably.
I agree very much that everyone's score matters. And thoughts matter more than the score, the thoughts behind it.
So are we gonna do median?
Well-
Are we gonna do multiple? What are we gonna do?
I think that the way this will go, we're a committee, and so we will then, we'll bring this forward at the next regular board meeting, and then at that point, we will have, we'll make a decision. But, I think if most of the board is, walking in here, I was strictly on my mode point of view, but I hear a lot of what you're saying, and I think it makes a lot of sense. And I see it differently now, and I'm okay with the median, especially if the other part of this we can talk about is that we are having this discussion, because I agree that discussion is important, it's productive, and even where there's disagreement, I think that we can learn from each other. And I think that is productive. So I would be willing to do median if everyone else is. And on the second issue, I think that as long as we are, as Ms. Marks has pointed out, if somebody is an outlier, we should ask in a non-threatening way, look, all of us are over here, and we see that you're over here, did you want to elaborate that for us? And I think that would be a good point of discussion as well.
I don't think it's threatening or non-threatening. I hope that everyone could.
Well,
I didn't
look,
feel threatened.
And it's not about being an outlier.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
about looking at something and saying, is there something I missed? I just think that we
okay.
should have
hearing that person's
conversations at
point of
all
view.
levels.
Yeah.
Yes, very
You know.
much so. I'm going to guess
Because
that,
everybody's perspective is different.
and everyone arrived at their rating after thoughtful and thorough review, and that thoughtful and thorough review should be vetted. Yeah.
All right, I'm okay with that. So, any other comments?
I just wish we could take this more, there's other evaluations that I've seen more or less done like almost in a survey method where everything can be, outsourced to a box. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
not, where we can do it on our iPads and not have to go through a lot of writing and then moving it here or
So you're-
emailing.
Okay, so you're talking about the technical method by which I think we had some technical issues.
Are you talking about a different style?
Well, almost
different
like the,
format.
is it grass? It's monkey survey. I'm trying to think of the survey method in which.
Survey Monkey?
That's it. Survey.
Oh, like
monkey.
speed doesn't,
Speed, yeah, and we've done them on our job that way too. but-
that's easy to do. It's either or, there's other meetings we can use too.
I think it more or less, instead of having to move and go from this box or transfer, this can be sourced to that or aligned to that box and where there's no question of anything.
A more elegant method. It's pretty simple to do, I agree. It would be hard to get less elegant.
Yeah, it's just a suggestion.
It's an excellent one.
It eliminates one person having to cut and paste and move
Yeah,
stuff.
We
from
did step
documents
backwards several
to
decades in the
documents.
technology with the
So,
use of this,
especially
yes.
since we have these. So let's put them to good use.
Well, we certainly could ask Speed what theirs looks like, and then
I don't think we need to do you that it's pretty simple. We can take everything we have here and just dump it into a form. It's really easy.
Fine with me. As long as it's the same product, you know,
It'd be a better.
whatever is easy.
I think it would be a better.
Well, I don't know if it's better. But, I mean, it's nice.
Easier to see. It would be, you could take
Cleaner.
everything we had there, yes.
Yeah, you can.
And
you
nothing
can-
would be lost.
Logically savvy.
Yeah, you wouldn't lose anything.
But you put the same form into,
It's just survey questions, and then
Yeah.
it calculates it.
and does it leave room to
Yes. and
the
that's-
narratives as well?
Of course it does.
Yep.
I'm sure you do these with your kids in class, don't you?
You know, we use other stuff. I kind of get away from SurveyMonkey and did like,
It's just a form, Google
Yeah.
form, anybody does
That's
it.
fine. I'm open to that as well. Any other issues?
If the board doesn't have any, I have a few suggestions. All right, just in the time, or the schedule here, I just had some questions because I was unclear. On step 1 of it, it says, link to secure site with current superintendent evaluation tool and any supporting documentation sent to the board. My question is, what is the supporting documentation sent to the board? I don't know what that means. Is that about the instrument?
Okay, so you're looking at step 1. So, okay, so step 1, link to secure site. Okay, so that the secure site is,
I know what that is, but it's the supporting documentation sent to the board. What, is that explaining the site? Or the tool? I don't know what that means.
current.
I didn't
survey,
catch that last one.
superintendent evaluation tool.
I mean, you can get back to me. I'm bringing up that question.
Right. Oh, I know what this is. So, this is what Lisa did, where she had set up the actual site, and this goes back to the SurveyMonkey idea that it's just creating this secure document that we can respond to. That's what it is. You understand?
Okay. So the supporting documentation is sent to the board about the tool or the format we're using, or?
Yeah. So, and this is not actually what you are doing. This is
No,
what.
that's not what I'm doing.
No, this is what the person who sets up the Google Doc or the SurveyMonkey or whatever method we're using to collect data.
Okay, so the board sets up, whoever the board member is that sets up.
Right.
Okay, all right. All right, now, next one, step 5. The thing on here, I'll talk about this more next week at our meeting, but it talks about, I would like to see when it says add comments with the ratings, and I guess what I wrote down was full board review of final document before giving the superintendent, and then in parentheses I put entire board should sign off on the completed final summative with consensus comments decided by the board. Distinguish between individual comments and board direction. Comments should be factual, decided upon before document is given to the superintendent. Individual comments with board member names are still important for the superintendent to review.
You're in number 5?
Yeah, that's things I would like to add. We can talk about some of that in, not at this meeting, but
Okay.
our next one.
Could you email those suggestions to me just so I have all the notes
Mhm.
together?
Yep.
Okay.
It's just my suggestions.
And so, and you want to talk about that at a future?
Yeah, because when you have like our evaluations, when we evaluate everybody,
Right.
you should have, the comments should be factual, they should be evidence-based, and there should be a discussion. For me, an example, if I'm evaluating when I'm evaluating my principals, they'll have the evaluation, we have conversations throughout the entire year, and then that information, that whatever is written, they know that it's written, they know why, they understand it, etc. So it's a little different with a board because it's 7 people evaluating one person.
Right, okay.
So it would be all together in doing that. And then that would be, it'll be more clear after I discuss it with you guys next week.
Okay.
Okay, and then the next one, number 3, step 10. What is that one, step 10? Okay, it says solicit full board input, convene to review the current tool. That's this meeting,
Mhm.
I'm assuming, so suggestion just to add solicit full board and superintendent input, because that's what we're doing in practice.
Right. So because it doesn't say and superintendent, that's your suggestion?
My suggestion is just to put and superintendent.
Okay, no problem. I'm gonna make a little note of that.
Okay, I'm just throwing things in here that I saw. Okay, we talked about the mean, median, and mode. Oh, here's this one, number 5. This was, I want to know this, and I don't know if you can share it with me now, but the question is this: why send summative to the attorney? The summative should go strictly into the personnel file. I've never heard of that before.
We did that last year.
We did it last year, and I didn't question it last year, so I waited till this year. I don't know why that, I've never had that happen to me, and being a superintendent for 11 years.
Okay. We could, you and I could discuss it.
No, why don't we all discuss it? Why would just you discuss it?
Well,
We can discuss it at next week.
yeah, sure, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay. But that's not I don't know, maybe, I don't know, I'm just not used to it. And then the last suggestion I have, all of the data, all the information I gave you guys, it was a ton, okay, and it was all in indicators. There's a couple different ways of doing evaluation, and we are a very progressive school district, and we're on cutting edge, and we're doing some awesome things here. And there's different ways of doing evaluation, and now isn't the time. Right, okay, here's what happened, here's where we are, here's where I intend to be. It goes with my goals, a strategic plan. That may be more useful for the board, and that's a board discussion, rather than me taking a log of all the stuff that we've done, which I've already given throughout the year to all of you. I mean, if you wanted evidence, as a board, I could show you the different things, because I definitely have it, but there may be a better way of doing that, because I found this year that's all I was doing, and it really impeded daily operations.
So you would like to not turn in a gigantic
Yes,
portfolio
that's what I
of...
would like.
Okay.
Yep. So I'd like to discuss that, and then, another way, as far as going forward, when you have a strategic plan, part of that is a report out. So we're going to have a report out next week on the strategic plan and where we are, okay, as we're moving forward.
Mhm.
But with strategic planning and evaluations of the superintendent and how I evaluate my administrators, et cetera, there could be touch points throughout the year. You have that discussion. Now, it's good for the community input, it is good for board input, and it's good for, of course, administrative input on where we're going with different things. That's a proactive approach. They use that in the suburbs up north, DuPage County, Lake County. It works well for them, and that's where you form the evaluation. But there's some hiccups with that we can't talk about in open session right now, but
Okay.
that's something maybe just put in the back of your mind.
Okay.
It's a very proactive way of moving an organization forward.
Is that in your notes that you have?
No, it's just off the top of my
Time
head.
your head.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thanks. But it is successful.
Okay.
So anyway, that is all that I have to say in open session.
Okay.
Okay.
Does anyone else have anything they'd like to share in this special meeting? Any suggestions moving forward? I will say generally that I think that this evaluation cycle went a lot better than last year, and it's because everybody had really quality input. Does anyone else have anything beyond a general pat on the back that they would like to add?
I have nothing to compare it to. So,
Okay.
I think there was very little
Right.
input, I don't think it was high quality input. I think that the meeting we had when we all discussed things was focused on dealing for numbers and not on sharing anyone's observations or commentary. I'm unsatisfied with how it ended. I don't feel we've wrapped it up yet. We haven't seen the final, to the best of my knowledge, we haven't seen a final document. I understand that you and Mrs. Odom met with the superintendent, but I don't believe the board saw, and he was given something, but I don't believe the board saw what he was given prior to that meeting, so I think that should.
Okay. You would like to see what the president and vice president were presenting prior to?
The whole board.
Or the
Yeah,
whole board prior
the
to?
whole board would like to see,
Okay.
because that apparently was presented as the outcome of board discussions, but the board didn't have an opportunity to see it.
Okay, so then, somewhere in step 5, well, 5.5, summary, summative with super. Okay.
No, not with the super, with the board.
Right, with board.
You said super.
Right, but it's the summative that we would be sharing with the.
So I would imagine that we would have a meeting where we would all discuss our individual rating, where we would come together to discuss our evaluations, that then you would prepare a document that would be proposed to be given to the superintendent, that the entire board would have an opportunity to look at that document, make sure everybody was in agreement with it, and then that would go to the superintendent. And then if, I believe then there's space for, then I would think the superintendent would come back with the whole board to have a comprehensive talk about everything with the board. I think that would be productive, instead of just dropping an evaluation on the superintendent and the board and the superintendent never closing that loop. I hate saying that, I apologize. Never coming back together to finish that.
Would you want there to be an actual meeting then?
Yes.
With a discussion, or?
Yes.
Okay,
I think I
We
said
can do
that.
it at a work
Yes.
meeting.
and just clarifying.
I just think this whole thing has been shrouded in a little too much. There's been a lack of clarity to the process and to outcomes, and I don't know why.
So that would be at a special meeting, or would that be when?
Just at a meeting, it doesn't have to be a special one.
Well, okay, well, that would put us in scheduling, because it takes place, I believe, after the 14th in our schedule. That would mean we would not meet, and the super would not get feedback until April 11th, which is after spring break. Okay, we can look at that.
I'm interested in exploring the possibility of having a more current and ongoing piece to the evaluation. I think I'm intrigued by what you suggested, and some pieces that might look a little different going forward that could be incorporated into something like this. I think it was Mrs. Horth's point when we started this, was that we're doing a review in February, March, and that's a piece, but it's not.
I'm just not a fan of doing a full evaluation when we don't have a full school year's worth
Right.
of, I mean, in all fairness,
Oh.
you know, he should not have met all of his, I mean, you could be that awesome, I guess, and meet
No,
all of your
yeah.
goals by February, but your average person does not. And so unless we are building in some other opportunity at the end of the school year to catch all of the rest of, you know, the work that you have done in support of your goals, but I don't think there's an opportunity to do that. So to
We just-
evaluate someone mid-year is just that a mid-year review. It's not a full evaluation.
I think we could certainly look. There's no reason we have the opportunity. We meet twice a month. The superintendent is with us at all of those meetings. We certainly have the opportunity to tweak the way we do this. And not even tweak the way we do this, but to incorporate a little bit more meat into our meetings.
We just finished our report outs last week, and we've had some phenomenal results. But, so I'm going to give that to the board, but it wasn't part of that.
I would just hope that we never have an employee, and since we have one employee who is at any point uncertain about the success of his enterprise at any point in time. It should be pretty clear. We meet twice a month. It should be pretty clear to the superintendent whether we're all tracking together or not tracking together. I would hate to be in an organization where you have no opportunity to right the ship that might be turning. I mean, the way this is formulated, the ship could turn left for 10 months before anybody says, oh, that was really heading in the wrong direction. I think we could do this a little bit better, and it would save a lot of time and be more useful.
You said that there was other districts, specifically in the north, that did this that you know of, or DuPage?
Yeah, but there's more to it than what I
Right.
brought into this. So
Okay.
we can have that, talk about that later.
Okay.
We can also, because we're 7 rather intelligent people, probably figure out our own way to make this work too.
I think coming in when you're new to the board, it just, I don't know, I think we talked about it a little bit. We just didn't kind of piggybacking off of what you said, but it just did not give us enough time, at least to properly evaluate and to really take a look. And I mean, we're gonna have something to go in comparison this next time, but for new people coming in, they're really, to me, at a disadvantage.
Along in developing my skills, is the superintendent meeting my information needs? Is he educating me when I ask the questions? I think that's probably something there's a little more personal piece to this that would encourage good governance that I don't think this evaluation is able to touch on, because it's aimed all at the same level, and the people answering the survey don't have the same level or the same needs, and I think that's a good point. Carl?
What this evaluation does, it's extremely objective. Every indicator and goal, there's evidence to support every single thing on there. There was not a conversation.
For the one you're suggesting?
No, for this one,
Okay.
our current one. So when you say that, I mean, yeah, it's easy. Here's everything. It's on there. But it's that, I like to reflect with the board. I like to get input on it. So I think there may be another way of doing this.
Yeah, I mean, I would get more out of a conversation that went something like this. I know that A is my goal. I am 30% of the way there, but here is my plan between February and May to get me to there. Or I don't think I'm going to get there, and here's the reason why I don't think that I'm going to get there.
Or, I'm not sure I want to get there, and I want to talk to you about the reasons why we might not want to get there. I completely agree with you.
That's the beauty about the report out on the strategic plan. So, food for thought, you guys.
Any other comments?
No, that's it.
John, anything else to add?
No, I think I think I've said this in the past, but the tool itself, I think, is adequate. I consider it a framework to help shape our dialogue and discussions. I don't know that we should spend a ton of time trying to fix it. Maybe we can fine-tune it. I'm not sure we need to reinvent it, but I could be wrong. But then secondly, and I think I've also mentioned this in the past, is the timeline. We begin this process basically in February now, and it's not necessarily officially classified as a full year evaluation or an end of year evaluation. I think we can make it something closer to that by choosing to move the timeline back a little bit and perhaps begin the process after spring break and wrap it up around this time or maybe a little bit before, and try to do it in an official way as more of a full school year evaluation. Obviously we can do some other things, but if we were interested in making this particular exercise more of an official school year evaluation, I think we have the flexibility to kind of push that timeline back a bit, and I think that's something we may want to consider.
Okay, well, that's certainly something we can talk about.
Thank you.
Anyone else, comments? I will then entertain a motion to end the special meeting. All in favor, say aye. Oh, sorry, let me screw this up. So moved.
Who, sorry, who
Okay.
did that?
Me.
Your motion?
A second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. We're out of here.